Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is well. I got pretty much about several people on, so I guess we can go ahead and get started. We'll add those that join here after the fact. But we appreciate you guys joining in our April 2024 safety meeting. We definitely appreciate you guys joining this morning to cover a few important topics as we head into another month and get ready kind of more so for summer and some of the summer challenges, some of the things that go on in our society in terms of graduations and summertime travel starts, and also just law enforcement as they get ready to amp up their enforcement on inspections and stuff like that, with a lot more people being out on the road. So we definitely want to kind of cover those topics. And like always, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to unmute yourself and ask us at any time. We're also here to answer any questions that you may have, and we'll try to get you answers to the best of our ability. But so again, thank you guys for joining. We'll go ahead and get started because we got quite a bit of stuff to cover. And yeah, so tune in. So we have David here. He's going to cover some of these topics for us, and then we'll again, if you have questions, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask. David?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about roadside DOT inspection. And I'm just going to give you a real brief thing here. There's 6 or 7 levels of DOT inspections. There's a standard inspection, which is a level 1. There's a level 2. There's a level 3. There's a level 4, and 5 is the vehicle only. 6 is a radiation shipment, so we don't do that one. And 7 is a jurisdictional mandated. That's local areas that mandate that. Those aren't usually things that we can be concerned about. But I want to start with now that you know that there are different levels. I want to start long before that. I want to start with pre-trip inspections. If you do your pre-trip correctly, you don't have to worry about any of these inspections. I've had since the beginning of this year, January, I've had 8 roadside inspections, and I've never gotten a ticket or a violation for any of them. Okay, that's because, again, I train my people to be always aware and conscious to do their pre-trips and to think of safety as more than just a thing that they do on their job, that it's a constant thing that's in their head. It's part of who they are. Okay, so I'm going to go through the real trip. Now everybody can say, oh, I know what a pre-trip is. Now I'm going to go through it all just so you understand what it is that needs to be done, so that you don't get, if you have an inspection and in quotes you're surprised or not ready or whatever, you'll pass them all with no problems. Pre-trip inspection starts with a walk up to the vehicle. You're going to look for puddles or pools of oil or water underneath the truck. Need to do that. And you do your walk around. You look at the body, the frame. You're looking for rubbing wires or hoses that are rubbing against the part of the frame of that. You're looking for loose parts. You're looking at your suspension to make sure the suspension is okay. That includes your airbags and all of the mechanisms that attach to that. You're looking at your frame. You're also looking at your exhaust system. Now, I know a lot of the vehicles now have the exhaust coming out of the bottom of the truck, not like the old days when they used to come up the stack and be stacked behind it. I don't know what your system has, but if you can look at your exhaust system and see that you don't have any black particles stuck where the joints are on those. You're going to be looking at your tires, not just the tread depth, but the condition of the tires, or the bulges and all that. You're going to be looking at your wheels. Is there any wheel damages? It's not likely that you're going to have a crack in that without you noticing it, but it has happened. Is there any damage? You have loose lugs. You have underinflated tires. Now, I think I've explained before that a lot of these inspection places now have gauges for the new trucks, just like you have in your truck, that'll tell you whether your tire is underinflated or not. they can also detect that your tires are underinflated. So you need to check those. And you can do that. You know how to do that. Just make sure before you leave that it's at. Check your brake pad percentage. Sometimes you have some tires have wheels rather have where you really can't look at what the pads are, but you can stick your head in there and see if you can see if your pads are low. And that's one thing you need to be checking. You need to be checking your fifth wheel, your coupling devices, which is make sure that they are well greased and oiled, and make sure that they work. Now you will do that again when you hook up, okay? But you can look at it and see if there's any problems. You need to have emergency equipment, that is your fire extinguishers, your triangles. And in many states, depending on the weather, you need to have chains. You need to know that your seatbelt works. And this is one that they don't really inspect for, but is required, and that is that you have a bunk net if you are a team operation. I've gone into trucks and found the bunk net tucked in underneath the mattress. You are required by law to have that. The net is supposed to protect you with 60 pounds of pressure opposing your pressure from being hit. Now, I've explained this to people, and I've seen it, and there may be videos somewhere about it, but not too long ago, we had an accident that was not our fault. We got hit by somebody on the side. The truck actually hit the railings, turned over on its side, and the driver that was in the sleeper wound up upside down. However, the net saved him from falling, actually hitting his head or damaging his neck and his back. Okay, if you have a collision where you are hit in the front, or you hit something, and if somebody hits you in the front, or the back of a trailer, or somebody bangs into you in the back and pushes you into another trailer, the driver that's in the sleeper can actually wind up going through the cab and out the window. Okay, a lot of insurances will say that if you are damaged because you didn't have your seatbelt on, or you didn't have your bed net on, that you contributed to your injuries, and there may be a limit as to what would be covered. And it's a small thing, but you really should have it on. And now I know it's inconvenient, and I know it may not fit well, but you can adjust those, and you should be wearing your button. Now, again, you're required to have them, you're required to use them, but you won't be inspected for them. An officer will hardly ever go into the back. But if he goes in and he sees that it's tucked underneath your bunk and you have a driver there, guess what? You're going to get a ticket for that. Okay, then you go around and you check your mirrors. Make sure they're okay, they're damaged, they're clean, they're adjusted correctly. Go underneath your hood. You look for belts, cracks or breaks in your belts. You look for leaks. You look at your front suspension. Make sure everything's good there. You look at your fluid levels. You check your fluids on your engine. Now, sometimes you can get a leak in the head of the head of the engine, or at the fuel injection ports. And one of the ways you can tell that there's a leak there is there's dirt on your engine. There should not be any dirt on your engine unless you have oil or water or whatever leaking from that position, and the dirt starts to cling to that. So that's a good indicator of what's going on. You're going to check your wires and your hoses, make sure nothing is rubbing. I've had a airline that goes to the brakes. There's a little arm that holds it up to keep it from touching the frame. That on Freightliners, that thing breaks on a regular basis. I've replaced 4 or 5 of them. So what we have to do then is we zip tie it to another portion of the frame or the suspension so that it's not rubbing. Okay. Okay. Then you go inside, you can turn on your engine, check your gauges, check your lights. Lights are the #1 reason why you would get pulled in for an inspection. That's number one. Number two is you have a lot of junk in your window on the dashboard. The officers figure out that if you got a lot of junk there, that you're really not taking care of the truck. So it's a good idea to keep that clean. If you have some stuff, food or water or drink or whatever, or cleaning materials or whatever, don't put them in the dash so that they can be seen. Those are the two reasons mostly why you get pulled in. The other reason is for us is that we've had some very bad inspections as a company. FedEx has anyway. And at this point, I think it's like 60% of the tickets that have been issued for FedEx's equipment. So you need to do a good inspection on your trailers as well. But those are the reasons. And because our record is not so good, they pull you in just because. They want to make sure that you're working. That's why I've had 8 inspections in the last 4 months or so, because they just pull you in. I mean, even with brand new trucks, they just pull you in because they want to emphasize to FedEx that we're watching you. You're going to have to do better with your equipment. When you check your lights, one of the lights that always gets neglected or is neglected by a lot of drivers is your license plate light. That's supposed to be operative. Now, we don't have license plates in the back of our the vehicles. They're not issued in Indiana, but you're still required to have the license plate light working. So when you do your inspection, make sure that light is working. Okay. The other one is to make sure that your ABS is working. The ABS light is working. Check your horns, both the electric and air horn. Make sure your windshield wipers, windshield washers are working. And another one that doesn't get inspected too much, but it can be inspected, especially in the wintertime, is your windshield defogger. In other words, the position that you have to defog your windows and heat is supposed to be working. Now, again, some places don't bother with that. Places like Colorado and some places in Utah, Nevada, places where it gets cold a lot, Minnesota, they may check that. So make sure your defogger's work. It's not a big deal. You just turn it on and put your hand over, make sure that the defogger is working. And just so you know, if your defogger is not working, you will be parked. It has to be operating. Okay, a lot of people don't know that. Pump your brakes. Make sure pump your brakes. Make sure they're working. Pump it down to the point where it goes below the limit, and check your gauges to make sure that your lower limit, either the needle or sound or whatever you have to indicate that your pressure is low, is working. And then watch it climb again, and make sure that the governor, when it stops where it's supposed to be stopping, make sure the governor is working. Turn your engine off. Listen for leaks. Sometimes you get a leak. We've had leaks in the seat. The seat is leaking air. Walk around. Listen for you can't do that with the engine running. Walk around the truck. Listen for air leaks. Okay? You are allowed by law to lose 3 pounds in a minute. But if they hear that, if the inspectors hear that leak, they're actually gonna check you to make sure. 3 pounds is what your compressor can overcome, but you're going to need to get that fixed. They're going to give you a fix-it ticket. In other words, they're going to want to know that you've replaced that, and then you got to go back and have it inspected again and all that. It's not a violation if it's less than 3 pounds a minute, but you will get a fix-it on that. As I said before, you need to inspect the trailers for anything. I've had, in many cases, my runs delayed because the trailers, FedEx trailers or the rented trailers or the trailers from other companies that FedEx is pulling have not been inspected very well. I've complained about that a lot. They should be inspected before they're supposed to deliver a trailer that is been inspected and operative. But we found flat tires, we found nails in tires, we found suspensions that are not working. There's a bunch of things that can go wrong with those trailers. So you need to make sure your lights, everything is working on it. Yeah, and the thing that also that a lot of drivers don't pay attention to, does your trailer have registration? You need to go in the back of the trailer, check and see that you have registration back there. If you don't have registration, do not pull that trailer. You will get a ticket if you get inspected for that. So if you follow your pre-trip and do a thorough pre-trip, and I'm not talking about I do this every day, it's no big deal, I just gotta run around and that's it. No, I'm talking about a thorough pre-trip before you leave. Then you know that whatever inspection level you're going to be encountering, you'll be able to pass it. That means a lot of your anxiety about being pulled in can just disappear because you know you've done a good job. Make sure you do your daily visual inspections. Once a day, every day. I have my guys do it every time they stop. Before you get back in the truck, when you stop, before you get back in the truck, you walk around and do an inspection. Last year, on the fuel island, we had somebody pull the kingpin on the second trailer. If the driver had not gone around and looked for his inspection, he would have pulled away and dropped that trailer right there in the fuel line, or he would have pulled away with it, and at some point during the trip, it would have dropped off. So I don't know who was the kind of person that would do something like that, but that can happen. So always do your visual inspections. Run around. If you stop someplace and you're not, and your co-driver is in the sleeper, and you're going to be gone from the truck for a while, do just a little quick walk around. Make sure everything is okay. Okay, so if you do that, then you don't have to worry about any of these inspections. Okay. If you get pulled in, okay, stay in your seat, keep your seatbelt fastened, do not unfasten it. If you have restrictions such as glasses, keep your glasses on, don't take them off and put them on the dash. Be calm and obey whatever the officer's orders are. And again, some of the anxiety for being inspected can be alleviated by doing a very thorough pre-trip and visual inspection. Know how to remove the ELD from the truck to place of the officer. A lot of the officers will stand in the driver's side door. You have to have a cable that's long enough to remove the ELD and for them to stand there and be able to look at your logbook. Okay? Know how to do that. Check your, give the officer, know how to transfer your logs to the officer. In other words, so if he asks you to email it or phone it, or he actually looks at it himself, make sure you know how to do that. You should have in the truck some kind of paperwork that tells you how to do it, but you need to be familiar with it. I have my drivers transfer their logs and paperwork to the company, and it would be the same for the officer, except the email address would be different. Whatever they tell you to do, send it to. Okay. When asked, provide your license, your medical card, and it says what your qualifications are or your restrictions. If you've got your glasses sitting on the dash and he looks at your driver's license and he sees that you are required to wear a driver's license, at that point, even though you are parked and they pull up, you are in violation. It's tricky, but yes. Same thing with your seatbelt. You pull up, make sure they see that you have your seatbelt on before you move around. Now, you're supposed to have your truck book and your hazmat materials, be able to reach them while sitting in the truck. So they need to be nearby, some either in the dash above, the compartment above, or a compartment in the door, or someplace where you can reach it without having to get out of your seat. That's a requirement. In your truck book should be, and you need to check it for expirations. Sometimes that happens. In your truck book should be your registrations, all your registrations, not just the registration. For each state, like New York requires a registration, Oregon requires one, There are other states, and I'm not sure about the East Coast, which ones are required and which ones aren't. But you should have all your registration. You should have all your hazmat certificates, both for the individual state, for the state that you're in, and for the national. You should have copies of all of your insurance certificates. You should have your inspection reports in the book. You should have BIT inspections. Well, in California, it's called BIT inspections and 90-day inspections. I don't know what it is for other states, but we're required to have an inspection form for every 90 days. Okay? You must have, and I put it in the book so the drivers don't have to look around for it, 8 days of paper logs in case your electronic log fails for some reason. You're required to have 8 days of paper logs. I have a little folder and I put it in the book itself so the officer can see that you have, in the case of team drivers, 16 pages of log books, log paper, so that you don't have to hunt around for it. Okay, those are required to be in the logbook. Okay. Any questions?
Any questions on inspections? I know it was a lot, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Those the 90 days, like that you mentioned in California, David, that's like the annual inspection, or that's something different that they require over there? Can you clarify?
It's in addition to your annual. So what happens is you get your annual, and then 90 days after that you have another inspection, and 90 days after that you have another one, and 90 days after that you have another one, and then you have your annual again. So we're required to have certificates, those inspections signed by licensed mechanics in the vehicle all times. So I don't know what Florida has or what any of the other states have, but I do know that that's what we have. So, but your annual inspection, if you have that, besides the certificate on the door, you should have one in your book as well. The paper version, not the sticker. Any other questions on that? Go ahead.
No.
Okay. All right. May's graduation. Seniors. Crazy kids who really don't care. This is almost as bad as spring break. They're going to proms. They're really not paying attention. And there's just not just senior proms, but there's also junior proms. A lot of them get a bus or something and they all go together, but a lot of them don't. There's a lot of inexperienced drivers running around on the road. So you need to be aware of that. Expect sudden changes in lanes. You don't want to miss out an accident on a highway because they would do that now. And I say that because the last incident that we had, the accident that we had was exactly that. Someone who was in lane number 2 and we were in lane number 4 was going to make their exit, and they cut in front and hit the steer tires on our truck, causing our truck to go up on a K-rail and turn over on its side. Now that truck was totaled. Both the drivers are injured, not seriously, but they didn't pay attention. They just wanted to get off at that exit. You could have gone to the next exit, turn around and come back, but they didn't do that. So you need to be aware of that. Okay? Expect more distracted drivers. Even this morning, as I live 100 miles from the terminal where we park. My son and I, we observed probably, I would dare say, 50% of the vehicles that we passed that were going too slow all had their phones in their hands. Cell phones in their hands. Drivers were actually looking down at their crotch area, and you could tell they were on their phones because the light was shining up on them. Ladies were driving with the phone in their hand next to their ear, talking. 50%. It was amazing. We just said, if we had my son said if he was Magneto, he would just reach over and crush their phones in their hand. These people are dangerous. and I don't know what the laws are in Florida, but here the laws are you're supposed to be hand touch, finger touch. That's it, mounted. But as I've talked to you about distracted driving before, carrying on a conversation while you're driving is equivalent to having a drink before you go to work. Your mind needs to be paying attention to what you're doing and everybody else around you, because as a professional driver, you are responsible for what they do wrong. Not your fault, but you're expected to prevent them from screwing up. Okay? Okie doke. Anything else?
No, I just want to reiterate that everybody who lives here in Florida, you know that everybody gravitates toward Florida for vacations, for days off. So all of us at one point transit through the turnpike, and we know that has, between the construction and the traffic and distracted people, inexperienced people, has become very challenging. So we really need to have all our senses on what we are doing and looking around and be defensive at all times. So that's what we're talking about this, because I know that the traffics are gonna be heavy very soon, and we're going to see, sometimes we see like 4 and 5 accidents. We don't want to be one of them. So let's be aware.
Absolutely. You also want to cover the motorcycles as well. It's something that's going to probably get worse out there as the summer months approach. It tends to bring out the motorcycles and the I forgot what they call them when they drive across country in large groups, but we want to make sure that we keep an eye for that. I'm going to show a couple videos that were sent over. So let me switch over here. All right. There it is.
It's pretty, it's fairly impressive. I mean, it's no sport bike, but this bike is actually what helped. This is what started the whole sport bike era. This bike, but when they first made it back in the 80s, you can see it's a very similar seating. My feet are behind my knees. It's a fairly aggressive stance, although the handlebars aren't that low. And even back in the day, this was a fast bike. Now it's still pretty quick. What I love about it is how it's so smooth. Everything about it. And this is the type of bike you hop on and you go and press the starter button again after it's already been running, and you hear it grind, and it makes you cringe because you're like, oh, the bike's already on. It's just quiet and smooth. I love it. It's like with electric bikes. Pretty close to what it's going to feel like when you're riding an electric bike. You just sneak in and out of places. It does have 6 speeds. I'm cruising at 65 in 5th gear. It's smooth. It feels great. got plenty of power. It's at 60 miles an hour. It's only at less than 3,000 RPM, 300 RPM. Guys, this is a great, great bike. It's so much fun to ride. You know, it's definitely unique. It's definitely a conversational piece. There's probably not going to be too many of them out there. And everyone's going to look at this and be like, hey, what is that, 1985? I had one like that when I was a kid. And you're like, nope, 2014. It's better. Whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, guy. Straight up, almost killed me.
All right. The video is buffering a little bit, but for those that can't see it on their phones, the guy's on a motorcycle pretty much doing a review of the motorcycle, and then as he's going down a 2-lane road, a tractor trailer pulls out and doesn't see him and almost runs into him as he's turning on into his lane. So just another example of you know, not fully paying attention when making turns, and especially when you're out in areas where it's not as populated or it's not as much traffic. These are the type of things that can occur. This actually happened here in Rialto a couple months ago, and a young person on a motorcycle was hurt very badly. I think they actually had to amputate on his legs. He was actually a manager for one of the contractors, got off work and left the Rialto parking lot, and tractor trailer didn't see him, and they got into an accident. So you got to be very careful about the motorcycles. Definitely want to look left, right, left before you make you pull out of a location like that and into a lane. And that looks like that's where the driver missed him and didn't see it and almost ran him off the road. All right, here's another one here on the freeway. Just a quick one. Switch over. Wow, that's another tough one to see. This motorcycle driver was zigzagging on the freeway in between lanes, and especially next to tractors and trailers. So be mindful, especially during rush hour. That's when you tend to see a lot of these, bikers. But zigzagging in between the lanes, it's hard to maneuver for them sometimes, but just be real mindful. Maintain your lane. Try not to, overreact, because situations like this where they're zigzagging in and out of lanes, there's not much you could do besides, maintain your lane and try not to get the road rage itch, and try to prove a point. But yeah, so just keep in mind as we go into month of May, we're going to see a lot more of those, vacation people. We're going to see a lot of motorcycles. We're going to see a lot of people going to graduations, and then people just traveling because of the nice weather. So just keep that in mind. All right, I want to go over the FedEx updates for the couple stations, Xenia.
Yes, I added in the message I sent via email and via text the road check information. What are they going to be looking at this year, their flyer? And I also added the the illustration that FedEx is showing for some of the terminals who has a light. So scroll down in the email I sent you in the PDF document, so you have an idea also of what we're going to be talking about. In Orlando, first of all, that's the lighting. That's what they say they're going to be using in some terminals to pay attention. However, they are saying that that does not exempt you from getting out and look and take the pictures and all that coverage that we have talked before. It's just another area, another safety feature that they are using. Still, you have to cover yourself. And they are saying you have to get out and look and still take your pictures and have evidence, because this is technology and can fail. Okay, so, and then the other page is the flyer for the next roadside inspection from May 14 to the 16. And their focus is the anti-bleed system or the brakes and noticing controlled substances in the driver. Okay, I want to say that kudos for all of you during this great campaign for construction zones. Nothing bad to report, nothing good, we just did our work, and that's phenomenal. And that's what we expect from you guys 100% of the time, that you give your 100% game. Orlando is saying to pay attention to drivers who are provoking roadside inspections due to watching videos. Some people supposedly they like to hear their music from YouTube, and those are videos, and they have them in their phone, and that's a violation. Make sure it's off, that you are not watching those YouTube videos. Grooming, eating, and smoking while driving. I guess the issue is that one hand they are eating or drinking, the other one they are smoking. So which hand is in the steering wheel? So that's, I think that when you provoke more that inspection and that ticket. They are talking a lot about an activity called TDC Championship. We have a couple participants that are gonna go this year. We've been practicing and they have been doing awesome. So we're very glad that we have 4 participants this year. We're very proud of our team. They are reviewing books, they are taking tests. We are practicing the pre-trip. Yesterday was like a long day with the pre-trip, and we learned a lot. So we're gonna be ready for June. And they are talking a lot about that activity, and we're proud that we're gonna be part of it. We are counting on you guys, the 4 that are going. I know that you guys are doing your best. In Orlando, they are going to be doing the CSA mock inspection on May 7th on the gate. So have your binder, make sure your papers are in place. Make sure you have the new document that FedEx provided us for the new decals in front of your binder, like the first page that you find, because they're gonna be looking at that, okay? Also, they are mentioning that you have to be on time when they assign you your loads. Otherwise, they are going to give the loads to other people, and we cannot have that luxury. So if they say out of the gate at 10, make sure that we are there and we're out of the gate by the time that they mention that, okay? We don't want anybody take our loads. Ocala updates. They are talking a lot about the lights in the doors, and Aaron already showed the illustration. And they are mentioning a concern because 80% of the accidents are side swipes, and most likely are due to merging into the interstate, like either cars getting in and you're supposed to yield, or drivers getting in and speed. So all that has causing accidents, and they are classified preventable. Either when you have the right of path. If you don't yield, it's gonna be preventable. So make sure you reduce your speed, that you yield to incoming traffic, because we don't want accidents like that in our record. And the top violation in the hours of services, they are mentioning this driver failing to have their ELD certified. Make sure you certified your logbook when you finish your shift, or next day the system is going to ask you if you want to certify. Just say yes. Just take a second. Okay. Also, if they find a unassigned driving and inability to show the medical card, so we always have placed in the passenger side all the documents that David mentioned before. You're able to reach them without removing your seatbelt. Make sure that you have all that in a reachable area. Do not move the books all around the cabin, because you don't want to look inexperienced. Okay. For the birthday, like, we want to say happy birthday for everybody who borns in April. Upcoming events are the Motorcycle Bike Fest. They are saying is from April 24th to 28th in Leesburg. So make sure you watch for motorcycles and more with those videos that we saw. They can come into our blind spot and we might miss them if we don't look a couple times and for a couple seconds, or they just come out of the blue from anywhere at a high speed, and we don't want to have any issue with anyone. Security, safety, and fuel. Make sure that you're using your lockbox and you're securing your key. There's, like, right now, I don't know if that's happening in California, David and Aaron, but people, the economy is harsh right now. There's inflation, and people get creative, trying to find ways to make money. So even in the yard, make sure that you're locking the tractor. Make sure that you don't have the fuel card in a visible spot, because people are getting creative with the fuel. And fuel, it's a huge expense. So we don't need people taking pictures of our cards, taking pictures of our odometers, and we don't want anybody to get in our truck. Because as David mentioned, if we claim something to the insurance, they are gonna say why your truck was open, why the key was not secure. So they are not gonna pay. So we don't need to give our money away to anybody. You need to make your money and your salary, okay? So secure that. Driver safety. So we talked last week about the civil unrest, the riots, and aggressive driving. Just be aware that your safety is our number one priority. Just do what you always do, careful, taking yourself care of yourself, not harming, not provoking anyone. If you need to detour, move away, stop in a safe place, do that. Okay, read the agenda and make sure that if you have to call 911, call us, do that. But if a person already escalate, you don't solve anything by escalating yourself. You solve it by moving away, by staying away. And remember, weapons are not allowed. So just find a way to be safe, to stop in a safe place without putting yourself or anybody else in danger. Okay, thank you again for all you do. Any questions, let us know. And thank you so much for choosing us. Thank you, Aaron and David.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe rest of the month, and we'll talk again in May. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Take care.